I mean, this show had everything. Ghosts, dismemberment, kids screaming, kids crying, kids throwing up. Let me rewind for a sec. Do any of you remember when competition and game shows dominated Nickelodeon? I'm talking about the overly colorful game shows of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, with shows like Double Dare, Legends of the Hidden Temple, and Guts. Now there is one show that you might not remember seeing, Scaredy Camp. Nickelodeon started experimenting with horror-themed content in the 90s with the ever-so-popular Are You Afraid of the Dark? Scaredy Camp, on the other hand, hasn't been talked about at all in the 20 years since it aired. It was a children's reality competition show that aired on Nickelodeon and Nick Gas from 2002 to 2003. No, you probably have never heard of it. And if you have, I hope to unlock a little core memory for you. The show only had 2 seasons, with just 10 episodes total. I recall it being absolutely terrifying. Well, at least for the faint-hearted child version of me. This show was part of Nickelodeon's Fright Fest at the time, and it is a bit of a strange concept since it mixes reality competition with documentary-esque murder mystery. The premise is for 2 teams of kids to battle it out for a chance to solve a disappearance and possible murder, one based on a quote-unquote actual legend. The show feels like they combined unsolved mysteries and ghost hunters with Survivor and The Amazing Race, but of course with kids as the contestants. As weird as it was, I guess it worked for me as a viewer because it scared me as a kid. At the time, I had never seen anything like this, and basically for this video, I just wanted to have some fun and revisit the series, and see if it was just as scary as I remember. Let's see if it deserves a second chance, since Nick, along with every other network imaginable, is painfully desperate to renew old shows to cash in on our nostalgia. Also in the comments, let me know. If you were a kid during this time, do you remember this show? Or were you more of a Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps fan? Alright, so after some searching online, the show is nowhere to be seen on any streaming service. But I guess I'm not surprised since even Disney Plus and Netflix like removing their own brand new original content. After a little digging, I was able to find all 10 episodes on YouTube, which are about 20 to 25 minutes each, and you can watch them all there if you want to check them out. The basic premise revolves around 2 teams of kids competing to solve a mystery of a missing camper or counselor at a summer camp. The show claims that they based these mysteries off actual legends, even though again, after some digging online, there was really no way for me to verify this at all. The legends they focus on are a bit dark, with the first season focusing around the disappearance of a camper who is thought to have drowned in a nearby reservoir and now haunts the lake, and season 2 focusing on a counselor who went missing with her spirit leaving bloody daisies on campers' pillows. I'm going to go through both seasons, so I guess spoiler alert for a 20-year-old kid show. The mystery for season 1 is the disappearance of camper Dennis Williams at Camp Lindenwood. He was last seen at the lake's reservoir, and apparently it's up to just 6 tweens to solve a cold case. The contestants are separated into teams of boys and girls, and each episode they must compete in a physical challenge against each other, themed after an event that happened to Dennis. There are some pretty standard obstacle course-driven tests throughout the show, with the first challenge being swimming laps and climbing walls. After each daytime challenge, the winning team then gets to return to camp at night and search for a clue with the intention of solving the mystery in the end. The girls' team wins the first challenge, and at night the show sends them into the camp, blindfolded and separated from the rest of their team, with their goal being to find and solve hints that lead to their teammates and clues. Now, this first nighttime challenge is bathroom themed, so already scary on multiple levels for me, and for the kids too, it seems. A public kids' bathroom in a camp that's also haunted?
No, don't like that.
At one point, they have to unplug a tub, and the third teammate is literally crying from fear.
Are you crying? Okay, wait.
And I really don't blame her. Look at that tub. I don't even think camps have tubs, but if they do, that's certainly a crime. After they solve all the riddles, they find a swimmer's trophy showing that Dennis won his leg of the relay race that he had with his teammates, even though his team did end up losing in the end anyway. So that's the gist of a full episode. Daytime challenge, nighttime challenge, crying children, new clue, and repeat until the mystery is solved. Throughout the season, other day challenges include pedal boating to get care packages, flinging water balloons, and matching hidden camping related items. Other night challenges included swimming in a cold, dark pool at night to retrieve keys that opened a locked chest, searching through a haunted lodge, and rowing a boat into the middle of the lake to find additional clues. More clues are found after each of these night events, like that Dennis was bullied by the other campers, he had a pet frog, and that he had a brother that he wrote to during his stay at the camp. In the season 1 finale, the girls end up winning and solve the mystery of Dennis's disappearance. The full truth ends up being this: Dennis's relay teammates bullied him and threatened to get rid of his pet frog. When they all went out at night to release the frog, Dennis's brother David went after them instead of Dennis, since he was afraid. However, when the kids threw the frog into the reservoir, David went in to get it, and he drowned since he couldn't swim like his brother could. This is a pretty dark ending for a kids show. And also a little weird when they say the girls team wins a party to celebrate their findings. Like, I guess congrats to finding out that a brother's love led to his unfortunate death, and that some boys left this camp with their own I know what you did last summer level secret.
Right here and now we take this to our grave. Agreed.
You'd think that in a show with stakes of possible emotional trauma, the winning team would get a great prize, but I guess not. The second season is basically the same thing over again, with a new scary legend, this time one involving bloodied daisies and dismemberment, new contestants with even more varying degrees of confidence,
They get scared of like a fly flying around their head, like they're gonna chicken out.
and new challenges with the gross factor up significantly. For a super quick synopsis of the second season, we are at Camp Silver Lake this time. Yes, possibly a Camp Crystal Lake from Friday the 13th reference. A woman counselor is haunting the grounds, with campers hearing scratching noises and finding bloodied flowers in their bed. There are challenges focusing on raft building and eating gross food. The night challenges are comparable to the first season, but I'm giving a special shout out here to the late night dumpster diving for Body Parts 1, because that is especially weirdly morbid for a kid show. I mean, the girls even have to say to themselves that the body parts are probably not real. These girls even have a whole conversation about dismemberment after, since the clue ended up being about how the counselor accidentally cut off her hand. Anyway, by the end of the season, the winning team, which again is the girls team, reunites the counselor with her lost hand and lover, and of course wins a little nondescript party as the reward. This show proved to be different from anything on Nickelodeon at the time. I greatly appreciate the tone and creative direction. It felt like a kid's version of Survivor with horror elements sprinkled throughout, which is definitely right up my alley. I love how it takes itself very seriously since they treat the kids basically like adults. The British host is also 100% serious the whole time, even as the children are laughing during a day challenge or crying at night from fear. During the night challenges, the crew tries to scare the kids even more, on top of the creepy set design and dark of night. For example, during the pool challenge, there were crew members in the water scaring them, and usually whenever the teams were in the forest or a building, there were ghostly sounds and voices calling their name. At one point, one team was separated for 2 hours as they were trying to find each other in the middle of the night. The way the nighttime challenges are shot and the real emotions of the children boost the scare factor, and is probably why I thought this show was scary to watch as a kid. The contestants are wearing cameras, and there are cameras placed around the rooms they explore. The night vision gives a very strong Blair Witch paranormal activity aesthetic and bumps up the realism. During these night events, the kids actually seem scared too. No acting necessary. During the day, they are confident, but once night falls, some of them break down. Of course, each contestant is different, so some kids are way more frightened than others, but they all seem shaken up. At one point, the boys argue over who goes first into the haunted lodge, with one of them saying he would rather forfeit than go first if they had to.
You should go first too. Dude, I don't want to go in the building.
Also, I don't know if this is just me, but I can't really tell how much these kids know that the premise of the show is fake. Like, obviously they know that this is a reality competition show that will be on TV, but do they believe in ghosts and these ghost stories, or is it mostly the dark that's just scaring them? Sometimes they are crying and asking to leave, and reassuring themselves that the body parts that they are fishing for in a liquid-filled dumpster are indeed fake. So it's hard to tell what they truly believe.
Courtney, you don't have to do this. You can just forfeit now.
Shut up.
The show isn't in spooky mode the entire time, and the day events do provide more moments of family-friendly fun. Some of the challenges are basically straight out of Survivor and are a bit unusual to have children participate in, but in turn this creates some funny moments and levity between nights. Probably the funniest challenge is when they are asked to build a raft from scratch to float over to a flag and find a clue. The girls build a raft that is not bad, but definitely too small for them. The boys just straight up give up on building at some point and throw everything they have into the lake and just try to swim with all that stuff. The girls end up winning this challenge, obviously. The gross food eating challenge was another favorite of mine since it's also one of my favorites in Survivor. Honestly, Honestly, it's a little crazy for me to see children doing this. Granted, the foods weren't necessarily disgusting foods like bugs or organs, more like cursed mixtures of strange ingredients that you'd see like on Reddit or something. But these kids were still gagging and throwing up. There are plenty of reality shows on television and a few that focus on fear like Fear Factor, but even less that subject children to this kind of torment. And even if it's a bit questionable, it's still pretty entertaining. Now, after watching this in full as an adult, is it scary to watch? No, not really. But I know for a fact that it scared me as a kid, and despite watching this 20 years ago, I realized I retained quite a bit of it in my memory. Is it worthy of a reboot like many of the other kids' competition and scripted shows that have gotten this treatment? Maybe, if there's an audience for it. With shows like Survivor and Ghost Hunters having consistent fan bases, I was just surprised Scaredy Camp hadn't been talked about more online, or even a tiny bit. Honestly though, even if it wasn't the scariest to watch, it might have been one of the scariest shows to experience as a contestant. As I've mentioned before, throughout the show, the children cried and screamed. This isn't typical family-friendly fun like Double Dare, or in front of a live studio audience like Legends of the Hidden Temple. No, these children were blindfolded and told to wander around the woods or a haunted house in the middle of the night, basically alone besides a camera crew waiting for them to cry. I used to dream about being on a Nick show like Double Dare, but if I was a contestant on this show when I was a kid, I would have cried like a baby. I would have forfeited as soon as the blindfold came off and I found myself in the dark in a decrepit, haunted log cabin with a ghost calling my name.
No, I'm leaving. How do I get out of this room?
No way would I have signed off on letting a van drop me off by myself in the middle of the forest. When I watched the show a whole 2 decades ago, I imagined myself in their shoes, and that was enough to ingrain this 10-episode stint of a TV show in my memory. I was a true scaredy cat as a kid, and as the contestants on the show showed, I think Scaredy Camp lived up to its name.